Returning now to one of our top stories, the Prime Minister maintains that the government is following the advice of security agencies and isn't providing any support to a group of 34 women and children trying to leave Syria. Anthony Albanese has confirmed that the government has issued a temporary exclusion order to one woman, which will stop her returning for up to 2 years. But the opposition is calling for that measure to be extended to others. Terrorism and violent extremism expert Dr. Josh Roos says the situation is challenging.
Part of the challenge is that many of these women, so their sympathisers and family members will say that they were tricked into going, they didn't know. But we also know that women played an important role in the Islamic State, and we know that they were acting not only in administrative capacity, but in enforcement capacity and active in the sexual enslavement of Yazidi women and girls. So the challenge here is what can be proven. What can be actually established in a world that was effectively closed to scrutiny. We just don't know. First and foremost, they're children. It's by no means their fault that they've been born into this environment and grown up in a really hostile environment. We've got to face the fact that they've been exposed to extremist ideology from day one. And to that extent, there's going to be significant work to support their reintegration into Australian society. They don't know any different. So there's going to be an enormous amount of resources and community support required.
The Australian families linked to Islamic State fighters have spent another day in a Syrian camp waiting for approval to travel home. Matt Tinkler is from Save the Children and joins us now. Matt Tinkler, hi there.
Hi Ross, good to be with you.
So what do you make of the situation these women and children are in?
Well, I've been to these camps, Ross, and I go to a lot of refugee camps around the world, and I can tell you without a doubt this is one of the worst. It's one of the most difficult places in the world to be a child. And at the moment, we've got 20 innocent Australian children, vulnerable children, who have been stuck there for 7 years, in some cases their entire childhood. And they're Australian citizens at the end of the day, and the only way we can guarantee their safety and their future is to bring them home here to Australia.
Are you getting access to people at those camps now?
Well, Save the Children has two roles really in this equation. So one is we're a humanitarian agency. Our mandate is to provide relief in these kind of settings. So we have a team on the ground in Syria, in the camps, trying to give those children as much support as we can. And secondly, we are a child rights organisation at our core, and we are advocating for the Australian government to take responsibility for its children, its citizens, and bring them home to safety. What we're not involved in is any operations or extraction on the ground in Syria.
Okay. So what do you make of the comments we've just heard from Josh Roos from Deakin University there, who's noting concerns about how connected to ISIS the families might be and the possible security threats that might bring?
Yeah, let me tell you the story of a girl I met in the camps in question in 2022. I met her and I said, "Sweetheart, how old are you?" And she said, "I'm 8." And I was shocked because she was smaller than my daughter, who was 5 at the time. Her teeth were black and falling out. She was malnourished. And I had grave concerns for her future. She'd been raised for the better part of her life in that camp. But fast forward a few years, that girl is here living in Australia. She's going to school. She's healthy. She's happy. She's received medical support. She's received trauma counselling. She's received dental treatment. She is enjoying her childhood fully integrated back into the Australian way of life. So yes, these kids have been exposed to a lot. They've been traumatised. They need our support. But it's possible to bring those children home to Australia and to give them the future that every child deserves and every Australian child should have.
One of the women is subject to a temporary blocking order stopping her from coming back to Australia for 2 years. This has been imposed, the government says, because of security concerns. What's your response to that?
Well, we have said all along that to the extent that the women pose any risk to Australia's national security, the right and proper place for that to be dealt with is here in Australia. One thing is for sure, they are not going to face justice in Syria at the moment. No one has been charged with any crime. No one has been tried. No one has been convicted of any crime. None of those women. They have all said they will cooperate fully with law enforcement authorities. In the past, they volunteered to be subject to terrorism control orders, which would be very onerous conditions placed on who they can meet, where they live, how they communicate with people. The law enforcement authorities and security agencies know who these women are. They know where they're going to live. we believe the best way to mitigate any risk that they pose is to put faith in our security and law enforcement agencies. And it is certain that they will not face justice anywhere but Australia. That has played out in the past with Mariam Raad, repatriated in 2022. She was charged with an incursion offence. She was tried, and the justice system played its course in that instance.
You say you're not involved directly in any repatriation efforts, but have you been in touch with any of the families at the camp?
We haven't been in touch with it in the camp, no. We have staff who are supporting the women and children in the camp in Syria. And what I know is that they're devastated by what's happened in the last few days, having spent almost 7 years of their lives. Some of these kids have never seen a tree. And to finally get on a bus and feel like you're on your way to safety and back home to Australia, only to be turned around. And even then, they've been displaced from within the camp because their tents have been repurposed. So they are devastated. They are desperate to get home to Australia. And I, for one, don't think it's good enough just to say, as some of our political leaders have, it's unfortunate that children have been caught up in this. No, it's not unfortunate. It's a tragedy. We have means to put that tragedy to an end right now if we just show the courage, the moral clarity and the political will to do what's right for these innocent Australian children.
In the past, Matt, Save the Children has tried to take the Australian government to court to try to get them to repatriate children and their mothers from camps in northeast Syria. Is that an avenue you're thinking of exploring again?
No, not at the moment. What we brought was a habeas corpus claim. This is the most fundamental right at common law for a person detained against their will to test the lawfulness of their detention. And what the full bench of the federal court said is these women and children are being detained against their will. They haven't committed a crime and that detention is unlawful. We made out the first 3 parts of a 4-part claim. What we didn't prove was the Australian government had a means to bring that detention to an end. That's where our claim failed. But the court said this detention is unlawful, it should be, and these children in particular have committed no crime, no one's been charged, which is one of the reasons why we say they should be brought home here to Australia to be released in the case that there's been no crime, or in the case of children they're innocent, and if there has been a crime committed, the justice system can be applied.
Matt Tinkler, thank you.